Hi everybody, is everyone able to hear me okay?
Yeah, that's it, thank you.
Apologies for that, I wasn't on mute, it was an issue with my headset, but hopefully you can hear me. So welcome to this session, Energy Efficiency in Action, Learn from Scotland's Green Business Network. My name's Torin, I work at Energy Saving Trust, managing our green business and green homes networks. And I'm delighted to be able to share with you today what the Green Network for Businesses is all about, how we raise awareness about the great things that businesses are doing, and how you can potentially share your own story about saving energy and improving your business's green credentials. Later, we'll also be hearing from my colleague Evan at Business Energy Scotland about the support that's available for businesses. And we'll also hear from 3 of our Green Network for Business members who are really fantastic ambassadors, encouraging other businesses to make various sustainability improvements as well. So just a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. If I could just ask everyone to keep themselves muted during the webinar and keep their cameras off as well. And for our guest speakers, if you want to turn your camera on when it comes to your section, that would be great as well. We will record this session and it should be available on the Scottish Business Week platform sometime next week if you want to go back and watch it. In terms of the agenda today, so we'll try to finish promptly. Appreciate you want a bit of time trying to move to another event. We'll have a little bit of a break, so we'll try to finish well within the hour. And in terms of what we'll be covering, so I'll go through a little bit about the Green Network for Businesses, and then my colleague Evan will talk a bit about Business Energy Scotland for around 5 to 10 minutes, and he'll talk about the support and funding that's available for businesses looking to make improvements. And then we'll hear from our 3 guest speakers who will each have 10 to 15 minutes to share their story about what they've achieved. Firstly, we'll hear from Colin at Strathaven Airfield. We'll next hear from Victoria at Edinburgh Leisure and Jenny at Kilkennan Estates. And then we'll look to have a kind of short Q&A at the end. So what I would say is if you've got any questions during the course of this webinar, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try and collate them as we go through and answer as many as we can during the Q&A at the end. So yeah, just to kick things off about who we are. So the Green Network for Businesses is a diverse network of over 300 exemplar case studies from across Scotland, ranging from cafes to large corporations and pretty much everything in between. We feature businesses that have made improvements to save energy, cut waste, reduce costs, and we also try and provide a platform for businesses to really kind of shout about what they've achieved, learn from others, and basically kind of provide them a platform to kind of raise awareness. Our members also help give other businesses the confidence to act by sharing their stories through media requests, engagements, campaigns, webinars, and some of them even get involved with delivering training to kind of raise awareness and use their kind of skill sets and their story to kind of encourage others to do the same. Our network of businesses is all available through this online library, this online tool. So I mentioned we have over 300 case studies on there. There's a lot of different ways you can search for different case studies to learn about these businesses. You can search by location, different business sectors, or indeed the type of measure or campaign that they did to try and find a suitable case study. If, for example, you wanted to find a case study that had installed a heat pump and you wanted to learn a bit more about, how much they'd spent, what they'd managed to save, if there was any kind of speed bumps that they'd encountered during that installation process, you can search for that on there. There's also the option to search for campaign types. So if you wanted to learn about a staff engagement campaign that a business had undertaken that was quite successful, you could filter for that topic and find those case studies potentially even near you. Some of our members as well have allowed contact. So there is an option to request to contact a member, and then you can get in touch with them direct to find out more about what they've done, perhaps even visit them on site to see all of the different measures in situ. So there's a few different ways you could go about it, but there's a lot of information on there as well. Now, why not join us? It's a pretty a bold statement to make, but consumers are increasingly concerned about environmental issues, particularly things around energy use. So they're really looking for businesses that share that kind of ethos. The network is obviously free to join. It's quite easy to join as well. It's just a case of completing a questionnaire, and then we can kind of upload a case study to the online library. We also have different kind of promotion we do as well. So you can start using our digital mark that we have. You could link that directly to your case study, put that up on your website, and it's basically kind of evidence that, you know, this is what we've done. It's quite a clear kind of statement of intent in terms of, you know, sustainability activities. We also have a membership pack that we send out to all of our members that contains different social media stuff, content that you could put out in terms of promotion as well, and help raise awareness. We also have a LinkedIn group, which, you know, has some members on there where we kind of share thoughts and ideas about further stuff that you could do, and try and encourage a bit of discussion between our members, you know, sharing ideas. So yes, there's a few different options available to you, and there's a lot of kind of promotion that we do within newsletters and social media and events, things like this as well, to try and get our business members out there and spread the word a bit as well. Yeah, and if you wanted to find out a bit more about the network, read our case studies, there's a link on the slide there, so you can see the online library through that. You can also contact us direct. Email me direct if you're looking to join and share your story. So yeah, that's everything from me about the Green Network for Businesses. I'll now hand you over to Evan, who's going to talk a little bit about Business Energy Scotland and what kind of support's available for businesses. So yeah, over to you, Evan.
Yes, thank you very much, Torin. Bear with me. Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Evan. I am a development officer at Business Energy Scotland, and I'm really grateful for your time today just to let you all know a little bit more about Business Energy Scotland, kind of who we are, the kind of support that we provide to businesses, and ultimately how businesses can take advantage of the support that we offer. So I hope by the end of this pretty short session that you'll have a better understanding of our service, and that you'll all be encouraged to get in touch with us to begin arranging support for your business. So who are we? So Business Energy Scotland are a free advice service funded by the Scottish Government and managed by Energy Saving Trust. We provide free impartial support and access to funding to help small and medium enterprises save energy, carbon and money. And the support we provide is provided by a team of business energy advisors, and with the support of a network of consultancies that provide the technical and technical expertise on some projects where needed. So we provide a range of free support to help businesses identify energy and carbon saving opportunities, and these come in the form of online guides and tools, skills development training, telephone consultations and on-site assessments. We also provide free support to help businesses take the actions that are needed to help implement energy and carbon saving opportunities by helping businesses apply for the SME loan scheme. We offer guidance on finding and selecting suitable installers and suppliers, and we also offer support to get senior management buy-in for energy saving investments. So why become more energy efficient? So obviously our overall aim is to support businesses to become more energy efficient and save both money and carbon emissions. So I'm sure by now that we're all acutely aware of the situation within the energy markets and volatile energy prices. So with that in mind, there are some pretty big incentives to take control of your energy use and become more efficient. The single biggest reason that most businesses will get in contact with us is to cut costs, obviously, and with rising and volatile energy prices, most businesses will understand that they have to take action to protect their profits and therefore their competitiveness and feasibility as a business. So one of the ways to do this is by being more efficient in your energy use, whether that's by changing your processes or investing in the latest technologies to minimize energy use. But while cost saving and profit protection is a major driver, we're also seeing more and more businesses wanting support so that they can reduce their environmental impact. So this is to protect their reputation, improve their green credentials, and satisfy their customers' changing needs and expectations that businesses will operate in an environmentally sustainable manner. So with all that in mind, there's never really been a better time for businesses to start their journey to net zero, and Business Energy Scotland are here to support you on that journey and help you get underway. So while many businesses will want to take action, there can also be a significant number of barriers to overcome in order for your organization to become more efficient. And for SMEs, where there's often the luxury, or sorry, there often isn't the luxury of a full-time environmental or energy manager, these barriers can seem unsurmountable. And that is where Business Energy Scotland can help by providing SMEs with free support to overcome these barriers. So when you're busy running your day-to-day operations, finding time to dedicate energy efficiency can be a major hurdle for many SMEs. So Business Energy Scotland have a team of experienced advisors covering the whole of Scotland who can provide you with dedicated support, doing a lot of the work for you and helping you to identify your priority projects, providing guidance to help you find the best suppliers, and reviewing quotes quickly and helping you access the financial support to fund your project. Not many SMEs will have the technical skills in all areas of energy efficiency or renewables, so as well as your dedicated advisor, where needed, we can also give you access to free support from our technical specialists, so they can help assess your potential projects. They are independent and therefore can provide impartial expertise, detailing recommendations that include estimated project costs, savings, payback periods, carbon savings. And of course, if you do have the technical skills, but would just like a second opinion, or you know what you want to do, but you would like someone to quantify the likely financial benefits, then that's also an indispensable benefit of our framework consultancy. So of course, you can have the best project in the world, but you still need to have a strong business case to secure senior management buy-in. And this is a stumbling block that's seen many good cost-saving projects gather dust because management weren't given a strong enough business case that demonstrated the project's environmental and financial benefits. So again, we can help you to overcome this barrier. Our recommendations come in the form of a detailed report that provide you with all of the important information to support this decision making. And beyond that, we can also provide training, guidance documents, and templates to help you develop detailed business cases. We can also make introductions to nearby exemplars that could give your management inspiration and confidence to see that these things actually work in situ. And if needed, your dedicated advisor can support you in presenting this business case to your senior managers. So the barrier, obviously, which is most commonly cited, is the lack of finance or funding options, although our experience is that this can usually be overcome when the business case is strong enough. But where needed, we can also help you access suitable funding. This includes the Scottish Government's SME loan scheme, which can provide between £1,000 and £100,000 of interest-free loan. It is unsecured and has no setup charges and can be set against capital allowances, and it is repayable over an 8-year period. So far, the SME loan scheme has provided Scottish businesses with over £26 million in loans, supported well over 1,000 projects, and has resulted in an estimated financial savings to businesses of over £48 million. So for a limited period and allocated on a sort of first come, first served basis, subject to availability, if you apply for the SME loan to help you install eligible measures, you could also receive up to £20,000 as a cashback grant. This includes 30% of your eligible costs for energy efficiency measures up to a maximum of £10,000 and 75% of the eligible costs for renewable heat measures also up to a maximum of £10,000. So by providing free support to help overcome every potential barrier, I'm very happy to say that we are delivering real positive outcomes for Scottish SMEs that we support. And an independent evaluation shows that 70% of our customers that we have advised have either already taken action or plan to take action on the back of our recommendations, and 90% of our clients say that they would recommend our services to other businesses, so hopefully that means that we're doing something right. So here are just some of the examples of the positive outcomes that we've had for some of our clients. So our team has identified over £200 million of cost savings for businesses. Typically, the savings are £50,000 per business over the lifetime of the project, and with a massive 24% average energy saving per business, which has resulted in 1.1 million tonnes of carbon savings so far. So with that in mind, it may be worth asking yourself, what do your current energy bills look like, and what would a 24% saving mean? What could you do with that, and how would that impact your business? So how much could you save? So on screen are just some examples of how much you could save on average. A lot will of course depend on the type of business that you operate and what your energy consumption looks like. But as you can see here, there are some fairly significant savings to be made should you choose to utilise the support of Business Energy Scotland. And finally, start saving today. So if you'd like to get in contact to begin arranging support for your business, or simply to find out more, you can contact us via the details on screen. So thank you all very much for your time, and I will pass you back to Torin to introduce our next speaker.
Thanks very much, Evan. What I'll do is I'll just open up our first speaker's webinar. Just give me a sec. Just bear with me a moment, it's just loading up. So yeah, I'd like to hand over to our first speaker, Colin, who'll be talking about the different kind of measures and initiatives they've introduced at Strathaven Airfield. So Colin, you should have control and you should be able to see the slides.
Good afternoon to everyone. Yep, as Torin was saying, my name is Colin McKinnon, and I am involved in running the traditional grass airfield at Strathaven, where we fly light aircraft, microlight aircraft, as in the picture here. So where we started was when I took over about 17 years ago with a grass airfield. You can see the Moen runways here and a couple of small sheds. And now we have developed with some large hangars, you'll see with the red roofed sheds there, makes them obvious from the air, makes navigation easier. And in fact, we've also built our house at the airfield. You'll see that on the right of the picture. And it's most famous notably for being on Grand Designs. So if you recognise it, you'll see another shot or two later on, you'll know where that is. We are aimed at leisure and recreational flying. You can see we've got our viewing area here with a biplane climbing frame for kids, picnic tables for people just to even come and sit down and have a look at what's happening, and an aircraft landing. Now, our story really started with the first lockdown because that gave us time to think about things. And the first thing we thought about was just literally getting round to doing those jobs you've always been meaning to do. So tidying up the airfield. From the days when there was a gliding club here, we had several hundred old tyres that were used to hold down glider wings. And we managed to collect a skitload of scrap steel just from hunting around the airfield, around the fence lines, etc. So that's our first step with energy, is making stuff available for recycling. Because after all, it's good buying stuff that's recycled, there's less embodied energy in it, but it also needs a bit of feedstock. So that was our first idea. Our second idea was to have a look at our energy use on the airfield, a little bit prompted by COP26, and just thinking, could we possibly work towards, as an airfield, rather than the flying school that operates here, could we work towards being net zero? We haven't heard of an airfield anywhere else that's been trying this. So our first thought was to have a look at that. We have in our house here, you'll see this, so you might recognize it. We have a big round tank on the right-hand side, which stores wood pellets for the wood pellet boiler. So when we were designing our house, we were very much again into the idea of using some renewable energy, trying to minimize carbon. And so as well as, so the aluminium that it's clad in is very easily recyclable. It's a lot of embedded energy in it, but it's very recyclable. And we've also got a lot of insulation in it. So our, I'm just trying to click through here. So our house in winter, this was it coming home after being away for a few days. The exterior of the house showed how strong the insulation was by the fact it was actually clad in ice. So it was nice and warm and toasty. I was glad to find when I went indoors. So insulation's a big thing, but the next stage was actually generating. So what we have here in this photograph is you'll see a hangar in the background, and on the red roof of it, we now have a line of solar panels. So we have a 10 kilowatt array of solar panels, and we have at my feet there an electric robot mower. So basically the sun shines, the grass grows, the sun shines, the electricity is generated, and the electricity powers the robot to cut the grass. So we have a nice cycle there, but we go further than that, because what happens when the sun isn't shining? So in the hangar, we have what looks like a big fridge freezer. We have a 15 kilowatt hour storage battery. And so we can take any electricity we're not using, we can store it, and we can use it later on. So what that does is it basically allows us, we have peaks of generation and we have peaks of consumption. And this allows us to average things out and smooth things over. I was just looking at the moment, we're actually generating 1.5 kilowatts at the moment, which is pretty good for not one of the best days, and also at the time of day, because our roof slope actually faces east. So our hangars have the doors to the north, and as you can see, the pitch roof. So we had the choice of an east or a west facing elevation, and we went for an east facing one, and I'll come on to that later as to why we actually chose that. Next shot here just shows that was taken this time last year, 22nd of October. At midday, we were actually generating 4.5 kilowatt hours, 4.5 kilowatts. So even in a bright day when the sun's lower in the sky, still can be quite a useful production. Quick shot of this one was just showing an export reading. So our meter tells us what we're importing. It tells us also what we're exporting. In the past 12 months, we have basically exported nearly the same amount as we've imported. We've imported about 5,000 kilowatt hours, and we've exported about 3,500 kilowatt hours. So again, the battery is good for day-to-day variance, hour-by-hour variance, but the issue, of course, is we have electric heating, and we do use heat more in winter than in summer, but unfortunately we generate less electricity in the winter. Another shot we have here is what you all like to see, is the word bill on the screen with 0.00. So that's our general aim. We are like that some days, but not most. So the first thing, of course, we're doing before we installed this, we're checking our electricity consumption, and this was the year 2020 against 2019. And just keeping an eye on things, we managed to reduce our consumption by 14%, which is a good achievement. But the next slide will show you what happened when we commissioned our solar panels and battery. You can see there, it was actually, guess what? It was the end of March that we commissioned, and all of a sudden our electricity consumption plummeted. absolutely plummeted. Unfortunately, just after this, E.ON then swapped to a different name. So we don't really have a screen that tells you in such graphic in such a graphic way what the reduction is, but we do have some of the figures at the side there, and you can see basically our reading between May and October went from 6,300 to 6,600 units used. So basically only 300 kilowatt hours imported, which, you know, is astounding. One of the uses we have is for our clients, charging electric cars. One of the things pilots tend to be quite keen on is new technology and trying things out. And so this was one of the reasons why we went for east-facing orientation on our solar panels, because first thing in the morning we are going to start generating at full capacity, and if people come down and want to plug their car in and go flying, then we are using the energy as it's generated, which is the best way to do it. Later on in the day, in the evening, we want to run computers overnight, we want to do one or two other things, then we have the power, surplus power stored in the battery, which then allows us to do that. So if by the morning the battery is almost flat, then we can also start charging it up in the summer, particularly from 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, we can actually be in quite significant energy from it. We're just skipping one slide here, going to go to the next. So as well as that, we're actually trying to use more electricity. So I just talked about saving, and now I'm talking about using more. So we're encouraging people to charge their electric cars. We now have some bicycles available for people visiting us to be able to come down to the local village. And you can see in the front, we've now got an electric bike. As I said to some French visitors, it's 1.5 kilometers to the town and it's 2.5 kilometers back. And they said, what? And I said, yes, it's downhill all the way, it's uphill all the way back. So a battery powered electric bike is quite handy. Now, as well as this, we've also looked at other things, because really, if you can save energy, you're going to save money. And energy could be the energy of your staff, it could be the energy used to make materials that you use in your business, and of course, it can be your gas and your power and your electricity. So around the airfield, we have another sort of energy, an exercise class takes part in one area, but we have picnic tables now made out of recycled plastic. So we can leave them out all winter. There's 3,000 drinks bottles on that table, and we don't need to varnish them or paint them, and all the sort of toxic, potentially toxic problems that can be with that. As a result of that, we were amazed to be given a Vibes Award, that we have used to highlight our position in the community, both the local geographical community and the aviation community, about what we're doing to try and be an example to others. Our dream in the future is, at the moment we're looking at the airfield operations, not the flying school and not the members' individual aircraft. But there is now the Alpha Electro, a 2-seat aircraft, only with an endurance of about 50 odd minutes. But I reckon within 10 years, we will be replacing our petrol-powered aircraft with electric. And in the meantime, we've looked at all sorts of things. We are continuing our carbon challenge. We have the University of West of Scotland. You'll see their drones on the left. They're doing drone training, and SEPA come down and do drone training so they can be more efficient in their work. We've actually ceased to post out gift vouchers, and we've gone to online vouchers, Robo Voucher, the company's called. That is saving us a large number of stamps, at an average cost of £1 or so a stamp. That's a good saving. And we're also planting saplings to form hedges. We've all seen photos of planes in the top of trees, so we're going for hedges rather than forests. And that's a photo there of 420 saplings that we're planting in the spring. And next month, we have another 420 coming. So yes, the next stage of this is to try and now actually analyze exactly where all our energy use, existing energy use is. We've looked at the low-hanging fruit, the easy options. Now we want to look at the more difficult things. And that means we've actually got to do a lot of work on definitions. The good thing about Scottish weather, in the winter, there's not so much flying because it's wet and it's dark and it's windy. So that gives us more time to actually get involved in projects like this. And also, of course, the big thing is we are public, we are open to the public. We are more than happy for anyone to come down, have a look round, have a chat, see what we're doing, ask us questions, because sometimes we come up with new answers when people ask us questions. So it's a two-way street. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Colin. Really interesting. And it's great to see that you're still kind of continuing to incorporate new things and you're still planning for the future and the next steps as well. So thanks for that. That was really interesting. Okay, what I'll do now is I'll just load up our next presentation for our next speaker. Just bear with me a sec. Okay, and our next speaker is going to be Victoria from Edinburgh Leisure, who's going to be sharing with you their story of different kind of campaigns they've run and different initiatives that they've supported. So let me just load that up.
All good.
Let me see if I can. I'll try that again for you, Victoria. Bear with me a sec.
I can see my slides, but I don't know.
Oh, I can't see that. My machine's quite slow. So yeah, are you able to click through?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Anyone in the chat, let us know if you can't see or if they're not moving. Well.
Yeah, I'm not able to see them at my end yet, so it might just take a while. But yeah, if you're happy to proceed, Victoria, with your presentation, that'd be great.
Back on. Thanks, Torin. Okay, yes. Hi, everyone. I am. Thanks, Evan. Hi, everyone. I am Victoria Scruton. I'm the Energy and Sustainability Manager for Edinburgh Leisure. So I'll give you a wee rundown of what we're like and what our journeys looks like so far. We are a charity. We manage the City of Edinburgh Council's leisure facilities. So that is around 50 buildings, 20 main venues, everything from swimming pools to dry sites to soft play. We have a climbing arena as well. So a lot of buildings, a lot of activities. Pre-COVID, it was around 5 million customer visits a year. We're still waiting for things to even out before we've got updated data on that. And our vision is to inspire Edinburgh to be a more active and healthy city, which of course means the environment as well. So our energy is our second highest cost after staff wages. It's projected this year to be around 3.5 million, but as we know, the energy market is very volatile, so that could change. It's making my job very interesting for sure. Before pre-COVID, so since the pandemic, we haven't had a full year where all of our sites have been open. So I'm still kind of working off older data. But before COVID, we basically used enough energy to power a little village. So yes, like I say, because there's a lot of cooling and heating going on within the same building, sometimes rooms right beside each other, it's a lot of energy consumption. And that totals just over 8,500 tonnes of CO2 emissions. Again, 2020, our carbon footprint looked amazing, as I'm sure everyone else's did, because everything was closed. So again, still waiting for it to even out, and I'll check back in with you at the next financial year to see what our carbon footprint's looking like. So yes, so what do we do to mitigate this impact and sort of reduce our carbon footprint based on all of this energy usage? Well, first thing we did was the Green Plan. So it's a staff engagement project. We have a strong focus on staff engagement. It launched in 2012, so we're celebrating 10 years, which is incredible. The original premise was that each of our 20 main venues, or 20, or some of the venues are grouped, but 20 venues basically had a green champion supported by a dedicated green team. And these were voluntary roles, so it wasn't part of your job description. It was just really wanting to get passionate people involved. The green plan itself, the program, it had 10 sections, each with a theme such as energy reduction, waste reduction, active travel, water reduction, trying to remember everything now, nature. Yes, and each section had a number of actions assigned to it. So essentially, the more actions you completed out of the plan, the lower the environmental impact of your own site. And the way it worked is that we got all of the green teams to kind of compete against each other for a wee bit friendly competition, and we ranked them their progress based on how much of their own green plan they completed. So that was quite useful, a wee bit of friendly competition. But yeah, like I say, 10 sections, and I think the last we updated it every year, but the last iteration had about 31 actions. So in a post-COVID world, as things were opening up again, and there was a lot of changes, not all of the sites opened at once, and not all of the staff came back at once, and even after everything sort of reopened properly again, there was a slightly different feeling within the organisation. So we decided that the format needed updating, especially to align with our 2030 net zero target, which we set as well, which was again exciting. So we decided to revamp this staff engagement project. So now each venue still has a green champion, but each of the sections got streamlined into 4 main themes throughout the year. So every quarter there's a new kind of challenge, and we've shifted more of our focus to online training modules, and the idea is to get a 95% completion rate of all of the modules. We also haven't popped it here, but we actually added we've got a dedicated energy and sustainability team. So there's myself as the manager, and then we have 2 officers as well. So we grew the team as well to give more resource. So the 2 officers focus on the challenges, delivering the challenges throughout all of the sites. We measure progress based on how many of the training modules have been completed by everybody. And also we've decided to put in a bit more of a social element to it, and badges or achievements, these sort of separate little things like running staff campaigns or running events. So sites will get recognition based on if they do things like that. It's to kind of draw on staff interests, and again, because it's voluntary, you want to make it fun. So yes, and we've also given each of the sites a small budget, which was incredibly exciting, because before everything was without budget. So the main challenges for the upcoming year are energy reduction, active travel, waste minimisation, and consumables. So that's what it's looking like now. Staff engagement is very important to us. It's gotten us a long way now. So I'll kind of swizz through this, but basically, you want to use your staff interests. You want to draw on the fun elements. So, but with that, you want to obviously drive home your priorities, weave in any corporate messaging or anything, any of the sort of I hesitate to say buzzwords, but anything that's kind of driving home your net zero agenda, or whatever carbon reduction commitment you've got. But you want to make sure that the staff are bought in by doing things that they want to do along with it. So that's just an example of an environmental staff bingo, where one of the sites decided to engage customers and staff by getting staff to complete a number of actions, and there were prizes for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, which was fun. It worked really well. But that's just one example of like a small step, something that feels quite achievable, but does have it's very difficult to measure that social impact, but it works quite well. So the main things we've found when it comes to staff engagement is communication. It's not just about sending emails and giving out information in kind of a newsletter format. You want to make sure that you're touching base with everyone. So When I was in the officer role, I tried to touch base with each of the green champions once a quarter, personal sort of a face-to-face visit. Now we sort of, in order to reduce our business travel, we're sort of saying everyone's very used to Teams, so that's okay as well. So yeah, touching base with your green champions, touching base with your teams, just to make sure that they know that you're there, not just on the other end of an email. Training, excuse me, sorry. Training, I can't really hammer home the point enough that training is so important. I can't count how many times I've had to give recycling refresher training. People always need help putting things into bins, and that's absolutely fine. And it's reminding people that it's okay to need that extra support. So before we were delivering in-person training, and it only reached about 10% of our staff. We've got about 1,000 members of staff. So we decided to really hammer home and use more of the resources that were developed throughout the pandemic. So the online training exploded. So we've decided to use that now, and hopefully we'll reach more members of staff, maybe seasonal, part-time, more of the people that we wouldn't really have seen beforehand. So that's exciting. And feedback's so important. There's no such thing as bad feedback. I welcome constructive criticism because it can only make us better. So a lot of our feedback, it's usually been verbal. So again, we'll be drawing more on the online training modules to kind of put out surveys, get surveys back, sort of understand how well these behaviour change initiatives are working. So, yep, just a little bit about campaigns. So again, these are one of the brilliant free things that you can do, but I think really help get staff involved. So again, before COVID, we're in the process of relaunching the Green Plan, so we'll see what happens next. But before COVID, we ran 7 energy reduction campaigns, water reduction campaigns, green challenges, which were anything from travel challenges to the environmental staff bingo, as you saw, training sessions, litter picks. Yes, all with no budget. So again, these were the green teams just having meetings, getting involved and seeing what they felt they could do, what they wanted to do, and then we just supported where we could from the energy and sustainability team. And a lot of this was sort of about engaging with the customers as well, you know, really spreading awareness. Yeah, and depending on how you measure your energy usage, luckily we have half-hourly data. We could actually measure the impact of one of our campaigns. So one of our swim centres managed to reduce electricity by over 5% in a month, which was incredible. And there was increased staff awareness as well. So I've already sort of said about the feedback, but yeah, going forward on our energy reduction challenge going next, we're thinking we'll do a survey before and after to kind of measure awareness, behaviour changes, and sort of see how that engagement's really working. So a bit more about the behind the scenes of our buildings. Like I say, we've got 50, so it's a lot of there's a lot of consumption there to try and reduce carbon on. We have, no, it's actually wrong. We have 8 CHP units at 6 sites, not 8 sites. 8 CHP units at 6 sites, which basically they work like a car engine. So you take in gas, it spits out heat and electricity. So we generate our own electricity on site. Works very well for the swimming pools because obviously the heat's always needed for a swimming pool. And so yes, you can see here that we installed a CHP at Warrender, and after that the bars go down and reduced energy consumption, which was amazing. The electricity consumption, sorry. And a little bit of staff training was needed to know how to manage the CHP, which again you can see it sort of goes up again, and as it dips, that's where the training kind of kicked in. So yeah, they work fantastically. We have managed to reduce our carbon footprint about 5% year on year. Again, I've not included the 2020, 2021 figures because they are skewed. So this year will sort of represent the full, all of our sites being open again. And we've recently opened Meadowbank Sports Stadium, which if you know Edinburgh at all, you know it's a big beast of a building. So that'll be an interesting one to see energy consumption on as well. But the carbon reduction it's due to staff engagement, low carbon technologies such as solar, which we've installed on 6 of our buildings, so that the community owned projects as well, which I think is good for engaging with your local community. So yeah, massive emission savings on those as well. I think I'm more or less, yeah, and just the last note on recognition. So like I say, because a lot of our staff engagement, it's based on volunteers, so it's not within their job remit, and we are incredibly grateful for all of the work that they put in. So we do try and get recognition for our sites and all of the hard work they put in. So the Vibes Awards are brilliant. We've engaged with them, as you can see, 3 times, and we won once, finalist twice. And then in 2020, we also won the Community Leisure Environmental Impact Award. So, and those were great for staff morale and sort of realising and staff understanding that it's not just us that appreciates their work, it has been rewarded externally. So yes, that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of our journey. Do feel free to stick any questions into the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll hand back to you, Torin.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Victoria. Yeah, really interesting. I think there's a few lessons we could learn at Energy Saving Trust about friendly competition and having separate teams for staff campaigns.
We're a leisure company. We're always going to be competitive. So
yeah, very true. I would take a leaf out of your book. So what I'll do, I'll load up the final presentation. Again, bear with me a sec. Oh, don't want that one. Just ignore this at the minute, I misclicked. Okay. Okay, should be loading up now. And yeah, so our final speaker is Jenny Chapman from Kirkcaldy Estates, and she's, if it is loading up.
Okay, I certainly don't want to talk about that one. You've got 334 slides there, it says, which sounds like an enormous number.
Apologies, it is loading up your presentation in the background.
Okay,
so
well,
just,
let me start by
ignore
saying
whatever you're.
Okay, let me just start by saying then, thanks very much for the previous 2 presentations. Very, very impressive. Okay, let's see if I can take control. Right, I think I've got it now. Great. Well, good afternoon. My name's Jennifer Chapman. I'm co-owner of ClarkeT Estate Holiday Cottages in Dumfries and Galloway, southwest Scotland. We've done a number of different things on the estate to try and reduce our carbon footprint, but I've been asked specifically to share our experience of retrofitting an air source heat pump linked with solar PV and a storage battery into an old building, and it's the old building in this photo. Great. So I'll give a very brief introduction to myself and the business. ClarkeT is a compact estate of 74 acres in Dumfries and Galloway, near the Solway coast. You can see the sea in the background of this picture. It comprises of a main house where we live, 3 self-catering holiday cottages, and 1 cottage that's currently housing Ukrainian refugees. We moved here in June 2013, and from the start, affordable heating and reducing our carbon footprint was a main preoccupation. In 2014, we installed a district heating biomass system in the barn at the top of the photo. You can barely see it, but the black bit at the top. It serves serves the stable block, which are the white buildings at the top of the photo, with 3 cottages, plus the main house you can see at the bottom of the photo. The cottage I'm mainly going to talk about, the lodge, was too far away to link into this system. So at that time, it remained on oil central heating, something that I wasn't very happy with. So let me say a little bit about this cottage. As I say, it's a holiday cottage. It's stone built. It's 2-storey with 4-bedroom, fully double glazed. And before we started working on it, it was had an EPC of D. Well, and we have done quite a lot of work on insulation, which I think is vitally important, but it's not not the main focus of what I'm talking about today. So we had some support from, you keep changing your name, it was Zero Waste Scotland at the time. I think it's probably Energy, I don't know what you called it at the moment, I'm sorry. But at the time it was Zero Waste Scotland. And we had a number of visits from them, and the consultant suggested that we should put in some sort of air source or some sort of heat source pump to get the lodge off oil. And we had asked for further support on this, and the consultant came, had a look and suggested we use air source for the following reasons. There was some flowing water, but there wasn't enough flowing water for a water source heat pump. We couldn't afford a ground source heat pump. We had the land, but we couldn't afford it. The capital cost was much, much higher, even though it is a bit more efficient. And also we couldn't afford a lot of disruption. This is a very popular holiday cottage. At the moment, we've got something like 90% full on bookings. We had to fit around existing bookings. We had a week in which to do all the work. So that was important, that we didn't disappoint visitors. And we had the space needed for the tank, etc. I found it all a little bit confusing, trying to work out the solar PV, trying to work out the heat pump, trying to put in all these things at the same time, and actually got further support for commissioning, and that was very, very helpful. So the further So I initially just thought I wanted it all done by the same company. That was too difficult. I could only find one company that was prepared to quote for both solar PV and an air source heat pump. So we split the task. We put the solar PV in first. That's actually in the field near the cottage, because we didn't have a south-facing roof to put it in. We got that in time to get the end of the feed-in tariff that was available at the time. That went in March 2019, and the air source heat pump followed a year later. Now, there are a lot of people around offering air source heat pumps at the moment, and I do know some people who've had problems with them. It is essential that you get full heat calculations. You do need to make sure that they have looked at every room, measured the size of it, worked out the heat loss, worked out what temperature would be comfortable, and it's a bedroom, a bathroom, etc., and then worked out what size radiators you need, as well as what size heat pump. New builds tend to have underfloor heating put in, which would be great. It works very well for air source heat pumps, but that would have been a lot more expensive and a lot more disruptive. So we wanted to use the existing system as much as possible, and we could. And it's worth spending time discussing this, because the initial assumption was we'd just sort of rip it all out, but actually by changing some radiators, putting some not very attractive bends in pipes, as you can see in this photo, we were able to use the existing pipework, and it brought the cost down quite a lot, as well as, of course, not wasting resources. So the whole thing was installed within 5.5 days, including all the radiator work. So that was pretty good. In terms of operating it, it is quiet. I was originally worried that the noise might disturb guests, but we've not had any complaints about it. You do need to take a bit of time to understand your controls. There are 3 things it can work on: curve, flow temperature, and room temperature. Curve is the most efficient. It doesn't work for us. It really works, I think, for new builds where you have a super efficient building. It was taking a lot too long to get the temperature up to something decent. So we've shifted to putting it on a room temperature. And the controls are a bit counterintuitive. They do tend to turn on and off when you don't want them to, and so on. It does take a while to learn the app. But it is useful to have remote control. By having an air source heat pump, I can control everything on my phone, which means when the guest leaves at the end of a week, I don't need to go in, I can just turn the heat off. Also, just occasionally, when we have guests who hike the heat up to 25, open all the windows and shut all the doors and leave them open, I turn the heat down on them. It also means I can work the cost per booking out, which is quite useful. With oil I could never do that. So it does mean that I can, over the winter, work out how much it actually is costing us for a week's booking and make sure that we are not running at a loss. We added a battery in November 2021, which was a year after, well, a year and a half after we originally put it in. So our data isn't comparable year on year. But I will try and give you the sums that I've been able to work out. So the overall cost of the system, including the radiators and everything, but does not include putting in the solar power, was just over £11,000. If we're occupied more than 183 days, we get a RHI payment of £1,270 per year. Because we weren't occupied for that period of time when we were forced to shut for COVID, we then were getting slightly different payments depending on the meter readings. But if it hadn't been for COVID, we'd have been getting that automatically each year. So the total renewable heat incentive we were getting paid back over 7 years was almost £9,000, which was a good contribution to the cost of putting it in. And have to bear in mind that we would probably have had to change the boiler during this time in any case. So that would have been an additional cost. The estimated running costs that I got from the suppliers were wrong, as they always seem to be, but they estimated that the air source heat pump would cost just over £1,000 a year to run, and oil would cost us slightly less, but not an awful lot less. That actually wasn't related to what we were paying at the time. Before we put in the air source heat pump, we were actually paying just over £2,000 a year for oil and electricity. And with the air source heat pump, for the first year of operation, it actually came to an estimated yearly cost of about £1,000. So it was actually a lot cheaper than the oil. Obviously, the solar PV was helping contribute to this. I stopped trying to work out comparative prices when the prices of electricity started jumping all over the place, because of course it's impossible now to compare like with like because electricity prices have been going up. So I've done a calculation for kilowatt hours to try and track that. Again, there's quite a lot of jumping all over the place. Here we have the blue line is approximate amount of kilowatt hours per day being used through the year. The red line for 2020, the red line is 21, and the grey line is up to date on 2022. The battery was put in towards the end of 21, so you can see that it's having an impact on our consumption from the grid this year. The other figures are slightly skewed by being shut for COVID and because I wasn't taking monthly readings. So where you've got a flat line, it's because I've averaged out. What you can see from this graph is that your costs will be a lot higher in winter. Now, you might think that's obvious. It's obvious for more than one reason with an air source heat pump. Firstly, your heat requirements are higher, but also your heat pump will be less efficient at cold temperatures. So if you first put it in winter, you may be very alarmed by the costs, but it really is very lumpy. The other thing that makes year on year hard to compare is even on a good year, we're not occupied throughout the year. And the occupancy, it's not just a matter of what our occupancy is, but also when the occupancy is. If we're full in winter, our electricity costs are going to be much higher than if we're full in summer, though it's usually the summer. So if you look at our year-on-year comparisons at the bottom, with prices going up, it's been costing us about £1,500 a year to run. That, of course, will go up again. But still, it's cheaper than the oil, what we were paying for oil 3 years ago. And these are the, this is showing you the impact of having a battery since the battery was put in. you can see on the pie chart the overall electricity we've been using. So the solar and the battery between them, and the battery is only being charged by the solar, are contributing about just a bit less than a quarter of our usage. I'm intending to put in a larger battery, which will be interesting to see if that makes a difference. I would also like to go onto a Octopus Go, like a cheap rate electricity to charge up the battery at night. Unfortunately, smart meters don't work in our locality because the signal doesn't work. So that is currently impossible. Just one anomaly on this graph, you will notice that everything went negative in September. This puzzled me greatly until I sent it to the guy who actually put in our battery, at which point he said, whoops, when he came to change a RCD switch in at the end of August, he put the sensor back the wrong way round. So everything is reading backwards at the moment. He's going to have to come back and fix that. So it's not just about the money. As I say, one of our major preoccupations is trying to reduce our carbon footprint. So before we put in the air source heat pump, we were using about 2,270 litres of oil a year, which equates to about 5.77 tonnes of carbon dioxide. Now we take our electricity from a fully renewable supplier. We supplement it by solar PV. I say almost carbon neutral because trying to do the calculation, question mark, because trying to do the calculation of embedded carbon in putting in the air source heat pump or instead of putting in a new oil boiler is way beyond my attention span. But we've definitely improved the situation there. So that's it. If you want to find out more about what we've been doing, because we've been doing a lot of other things as well, like planting trees and trying to garden organically, etc., you are very welcome to look at our website, and I'm very happy to attempt to answer any questions people might have. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Jenny. So yeah, thank you to all of our speakers today. I've been monitoring the chat a little bit as we've been going through, and there doesn't look like there was any questions that came through. So if anyone does have any questions just now, I appreciate we've run over a little bit, but if anyone wants to raise their hand if they've got any questions for any of our speakers, open the floor to them. Or not. They did do a very good job of covering everything in their presentations. Okay, well, if we haven't got any questions, I can see Evan's left some information in the chat about Business Energy Scotland. So if you want to head there and you want a bit more information on the support that's available, if you want to take the next step with improving your business, then that'd be great. But except for that, yeah, enjoy the rest of the Scottish Business Week, and thank you very much for joining today.